And now back to the Gunsmith Show with John and Jake Smith.
If you'd like to talk to John or Jake, call now, 810-743-8255.
All right, we are back. It is Gunsmith Show time. So, Jake, you've been real busy on Facebook, and I got to thank you for that. I've been out of town this week, and you've been here and working, and you've.
I did my usual holding the fort down. So
yes, you held it down well, sir. And I know that I went to the Gun-Free Zone of America. I went to Chicago. Didn't hear any gunfire. Not a one shot.
Really?
Not a one shot. Of course, I
you were only there for like 2 hours, weren't you?
I did get yelled at by a cop, which was kind of funny. The very first Chicago cop I saw was screaming at me. It's like, whoa, he had too much coffee today.
Yeah.
Have a Dunkin' Donut, dude. Lighten up. But he was mad at me. I was driving too slow. But anyways, thanks for doing what you do on Facebook. Go to Facebook to go 4 words, The Gunsmith Show. Like our show, spread the word, help us get up to that 1,000 number on likes on Facebook, and then we'll go on from there. So help us to gain popularity with this show. If you're a gun enthusiast and you enjoy your time spent with us on Saturday mornings, we sure appreciate it. If you have questions regarding the show or something you want us to talk about, send us an email at shooter@thegss.com. Again, that is shooter@thegss.com. And Jake, tell them about our website.
Yeah, our website is simply thegss.com, and you can go there, find what's going on for next week's shows, along with links to some of our past shows on YouTube.
Yeah, you've got a YouTube channel set up for us.
We have a YouTube channel. We're actually almost at 10,000 views, and it's pretty amazing. Where you can definitely tell through the YouTube channel and the videos what people's interests are.
Good.
270 Winchester. That video has more views than any other one.
Really? Well, it was such a beautiful classic round, and
right.
270 is near and dear to a lot of people's hearts. You know, if you mention it, it's a love-hate or it's a respect that caliber has, because it was always the gentleman's caliber. You know, people still remember Jack O'Connor in the beautiful Winchester Model 70s. You know, in 270, and we look for them still. You know, we do. We still look for them. So if you've got one, be glad you do, and it's certainly the hottest ticket on our webpage. So
right.
Thanks for all your support, though, and for those of you that are bored and surfing the internet, grab a hold of that Williams Gun Site or the GSS.com and dig right into it and have some fun.
All right, now the Remington Nylon 66.
Yeah,
starts way back.
What year?
Way back in the 50s. This began.
Did it really?
And it began because with DuPont, who at the time owned the Remington Arms Company.
Sure.
Could you imagine that today if Dow bought Remington? It'd be the same type of...
The Dow 2015?
No, it'd be
Nylon 66?
If Dow were to own it, it'd be the same way if DuPont owned it back then.
Well, I think DuPont still has a big... They're... I don't know how much... they're involved anymore.
Well, at the time, DuPont had a new series of injection molded plastic.
Yeah.
And it was called Structural Zytel 66.
There you go.
And very simply, that's how the gun got its name. I thought there'd be a little more history.
Yeah, I thought it was.
Well, that's
something
it for today.
The
so,
all right, okay, we'll go home now. Yeah. Have a great day. And,
so, the Structural Zytel 66, and they created this new form of injection molded plastic with Zytel as the material. And that's how it got the name. It's the Zytel 66. So, hence, it was a form of nylon. And it was actually one of the first successful guns that had utilized the injection molded stocks.
I always thought they were really cool looking. I mean, they were nice looking guns.
And it allowed Remington to advertise the Nylon 66 rifle when it came out in 1959. 1959, remember that.
Okay.
Lightweight, waterproof, essentially unbreakable stocks, and would not warp, crack, chip, fade, or peel. The alternative to a wood-stocked rifle. This is before you had ARs with the plastic stocks on them.
I'm gonna go way back. Okay, I remember going to Featherston's Hardware Store in downtown Ortonville when I was a kid, and I looked at all those pretty wood guns, and there was that Nylon 66. At the time, I had a Crossman pellet rifle that had a plastic stock on it that I didn't even know was somehow kind of copied it. I mean, it did kind of copy it, but plastic stock Crossman, and I was glad to have my Crossman because it actually looked like a Nylon 66, but it was a pellet gun. But I looked at that Nylon 66 and I said, oh. Then I wondered, how do you oil that one? Because I was always oiling the guns for my dad. You know, I said, oh, Dad, can I go through the gun cabinet and oil the guns up and clean them up? Well, and it made me wonder. So that was the first question that came to mind to me. How do you take care of a plastic gun? What do you have to do to it?
You don't have to do a thing to a Nylon 66. These guns were created, we're jumping here, but these guns were created where the metal you saw on the outside of the receiver was actually nothing more than just a metal case that the receiver sat in.
No kidding.
The internal compartments, the bolt actually fed on the nylon runners, and the nylon itself kept the gun lubricated, so the gun was an oilless gun.
Amazing.
Now, what that did, though, was allowed this firearm to be used in regions where oiled guns would not work, like the Arctic. Think about that.
So
where oil would freeze in the extreme cold, or oil would gum up and screw a gun up.
Yeah.
And for a Remington, this was important.
Yes, it was.
Where the gun didn't need any oil. There was reports, and honestly, I was reading just some different reports on this gun. It wasn't one I was too familiar with, so I wanted to just find out as much as I could. So I read a lot about it. And there are actually reports of Inuits up in Alaska, northern Canada.
What'd you call them?
Inuits.
Okay.
Using this to take down moose, caribou, because it held 14 rounds of 22 long rifle, and it didn't freeze up.
Isn't that something?
Plastic.
It
won't. It's a structural plastic, so it's not going to shatter like a Tupperware container would. Now, okay, 14 round magazine, but it was actually fed through the buttstock.
Right.
And then this is for the 66.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm going to talk about some of the other models and how they fed differently later.
Okay.
39 inches long, but they had a 19.5-inch barrel. Kind of an odd length for a barrel if you think about it in today's standards.
This actually came out before the Ruger 1022.
Yes.
And you got to think that Ruger saw the success of this nice lightweight rifle and said, we got to make one too.
And this was actually the first Remington semi-auto 22 that did not begin with a 5.5 as a model number.
Oh, that makes sense, yeah. Well, those old Remingtons are some beautiful old 22s.
Well, there are.
But these were certainly more modern looking, more getting out of the cowboy era
into the space
and more
age.
into the space age. So pretty cool.
Now, unloaded, these only weigh just about 4 pounds.
Yeah.
4 pounds, give or take an ounce.
Okay. I know they're lightweight.
Now, in comparison, a Ruger 1022 carbine weighs about 5 pounds.
Okay, so this is actually lighter.
Lighter. It'd be plastic stock. If it had a wood stock, I'm sure it'd be more.
And here we are talking Remingtons, but comparing it to a Ruger. So
well, you got to compare it. What's the most common 22 people have today?
1022s or Marlin Model 60s.
Now, colors the nylon came in. You're going to see it in primarily 3, possibly 4 colors.
Yeah.
The first one's the most common. That's the Mohawk brown. It looks like wood.
Yep. It's got swirly pattern in it. It looks nice.
White diamond in the front grip.
Yep. Did they all have the white diamond? I don't think they all had the white diamond.
Not all of them.
I don't think so, because I've seen some without it.
Now you had the Apache black, which was actually 2 variants where the metal was chrome or the metal was black.
Black, yep, or blued.
Blue.
Yeah.
It was, and there's very little metal that you actually see on the gun.
Right.
But it was a black stock. Those are a little bit rarer than the Mohawk brown.
Mm-hmm.
And I love how they're Indian names. So to change this today, there would have to probably be something different.
Oh, yeah.
And then you have the Seneca green, which was one of the rarest models. It was only produced for a few years, but it was the green stock. And
I've only seen a couple in my whole life. Good-looking guns.
And I always think of these summertime, and I think of guns like this because of garage sales.
Oh, yeah. Keep your eyes
people
peeled.
sell, and just some green plastic gun, $50. It's
right.
Like, wait, that gun's...
Yeah.
Yeah, whoa. So...
That one might be worth a tad bit more than that.
So...
Just a tad bit outside. But anyways, speaking of baseball.
Just a bit outside.
Yeah.
So the gun became extremely popular because it was inexpensive.
Well, but I mean, back then, I wonder what they were new.
$49.95 was the list price.
So that was a week's pay back then, you know?
Well, that's what guns today are a week's pay.
You're right. You're right.
Somewhere less than a week's
Not
pay.
for Donald Trump, but a week's pay for some people.
Yeah. I'll get to bear it today.
Yeah.
All right.
So the Seneca Green, I mean, how rare were these? Does it say how many they made? Do you get into that later or no?
Well, the Seneca Green, it was only made for like 2 or 3 years. Overall, there was over 1 million nylon 66s made.
Okay.
And that was 80% was the Mohawk Brown.
Yeah, I would imagine. Because now
I thought I had read that there's about 50 to 75,000 in the green.
Okay.
But remember, these were made from 1959 to about 1989, 1990 when they faded out completely.
They made them that long. I didn't think they made them in the 90s.
Or
89.
89 to 90, right in there is when they stopped. But you got to think about it. Come the 80s, you've got so many different 22 rifles out there.
Marlin was kicking
This
butt.
doesn't hold its
Glenfields
own anymore. It's not one of the first successful semi-autos. There's 20 other brands making semi-auto 22s. You got the, at that time people want something that looks different. You could have bought a Coleco. You could have bought a, what's the camp? I had one. The Expedition 22, the one that unscrews.
Oh, the Charter Arms AR-7.
AR-7, thank you.
I mean, there was a lot of modern-looking guns.
Exactly. Like you said, Coleco, you've got Ruger making 1022s. You've got
Winchester still making lever-action 22s.
You had the Remington 597 at this time, 22s.
Didn't they fade from... maybe they faded from this to the 597. They might have in their semi-auto line. But, the Remington was, I think... When I think of Remington semi-auto 22s, I think of the classic, Woodstock, the pretty
the
guns.
552s with the brass deflector on the side.
Yeah, good looking guns. I mean, there's some sharp looking guns out there. So, but anyways, so with the Nylon 66, I mean, when I look at these and I think of them, I do always look at collectability on guns. What are the odds of finding one, for one thing? If you've got one, you're probably fairly lucky about that. You might not like it that much. You might have had a bad experience. Maybe somebody sprayed the heck out of a WD-40 and it doesn't work so good anymore.
I can see people spraying it down the wrong stuff and melting the stock.
We've had that problem before, too. I've used some gun cleaners that, you always test in a small area to make sure whatever you're using doesn't destroy what you have.
Now, when we come back from break, we're going to talk about the 6 other models of nylon rifles.
Really?
The 6 others.
Interesting.
That I had never heard about until now.
All right. Well, remember, we're live here on the air in the studios this morning, WFNT and WLCO. Thanks for listening. And we're going to go to commercial break. We're going to come back with more on the Remington Nylon 66s.
And its counterparts.
All right. So hang on tight. We'll be right back. Attorney Timothy J. Cassidy is the pro-gun attorney that we here at the Gunsmith Show use.
With more than 20 years of experience as a prosecuting attorney, law professor, and holding a past seat on the Genesee County Gun Board,
Tim Cassidy is your pro-gun attorney.
Contact Attorney Cassidy today at 810-569-5441 or email him at attorneycassidy@gmail.com. If you want your home to feel sound when you are not around, call Pal Alarm. To protect your safekeepings and stop anyone from peeking, call Pal Alarm. When the house gets locked down so you can get out of town, call Pal Alarm. Give Pal Alarm a call today at 810-908-8298. That's 810-908-8298 or palalarm.com.
Man's got to know his limitations.
You just can't spend a whole day at the gun store anymore.
Thankfully, the crew at Williams Gun Sight Company has created the best way to spend the day at the gun store by doing it online.
WilliamsGunsight.com is the way to shop for your used handguns, rifles, shotguns, and more, with thousands of guns in stock for your total gun shopping experience.
Check out WilliamsGunsight.com and find your perfect match today.
And now back to the Gunsmith Show with John and Jake Smith.
All right, Jake, We are here live on the radio this morning with the Gunsmith Show. We're talking to Nylon 66s, and I'm John.
And I'm Jake.
And he's Jake, because I just checked. He is Jake. So, Jake, tell us more. I want to find out more about this gun.
Yeah, Remington Nylon 66, really just at the peak of its age of futuristic weaponry in the 60s. A plastic gun. It's a nylon composite stock.
Robbie the Robot, and they're like, that's a cool gun, Dad. Can I get that for Christmas?
I could see this being called like the 22 of the New Frontier. It's just a really cool gun here. Now it came with...
Well, it certainly went against the Western motif.
Yes. It broke away from that. Now, the classic Nylon 66 had a 14-round magazine that was actually fed... It was a tubular magazine fed through the butt of the gun.
Right.
Semi-auto, but there were 6 other variants of this rifle. Now, you had the Nylon 10, which was a single-shot bolt action.
Yeah.
You had the 10C, which was a bolt action with a 10-shot magazine that was in with the gun.
Yeah.
The Nylon 11 was a evolved Model 10. It was a bolt action with a 6-round magazine. Not sure why the 6 stuck out instead of the 10. The
Probably just the size of the magazine. That it stuck out of the gun, but it didn't want to look like a military thing.
Right. Now
and 6 rounds is good for hunting. You know.
The Nylon 12 was a bolt action variant of the 66, where it still had the tubular magazine, but was a bolt action instead of a semi-auto.
Yeah.
The Nylon 77 was a semi-auto with a 5-shot magazine. And the Nylon 76 stands apart as being the only lever-action rifle Remington's ever produced.
No kidding.
Lever-action,
I didn't know that was the only one they made, though.
It's the only lever-action Remington's ever made.
Very interesting. And it's in the nylon configuration.
Modern day, I'll say.
Okay.
It's in the nylon configuration. Yes, this is actually. There's 2 models that are some of the rarest, and this is one of them, and the other one was actually one that was only made for Kmart.
No kidding.
So,
Kmart was a driving force in guns, though. I mean, I bought my first guns were from Kmart, and they were from the toy department. But they were no, I'm serious. So they were. That's where we did a lot of our gun buying back in the day.
All right. Now we said this before. How much were these when they first came out? Now your Nylon 66, your simple classic Mohawk Brown.
Yeah.
1959 it came out, and list price was $49.95.
So that was list. So you could probably get it for $41.95.
40,
Yeah.
Now it remained the same list price until 1970, when it went up to $54.95. So it jumped $5. Now there was over millions of these produced, and your classic Mohawk Brown, your classic brown one that you see everywhere.
Right.
If you have one of these today, in perfect shape, according to Blue Book of Values, it's worth about $400.
Okay.
Now,
well, that's in line with what WilliamsGunSite.com had this morning.
Right.
For $339 is what they're asking for theirs.
If you have the black diamond model.
Yes.
So if you have the black one when the diamond on the side is black.
Yeah.
Instead of a white diamond, it's a black diamond. That's worth about $500.
Okay.
If you have the Apache black, which is the black with the chrome with the white diamond on the side.
Yeah.
Which you've seen those.
I've seen those.
I remember there was one of those for sale at Jay's up in Clare.
Yeah.
Used for the longest time. Every time we went up to that same gun was sitting on the rack used.
Well, waiting for that right collector to come and buy it,
And you always told me you don't want that, it's plastic.
Well, it was one of those gun lines I never invested in.
Right.
And I had Marlins and Rugers, but I wasn't big on the Remingtons. Don't hold that against me.
The Apache Black is worth $575.
All right.
Now, if you have the Seneca Green, this was a green. It was
good looking gun. A kind of a bright green. It wasn't a dark green.
Right.
It was not. Well, I don't mean that. It's not like
it's not
olive
like,
drab. It had some color to it.
It looked like a green stained piece of wood.
Yep, kind of did.
Those are worth about $625.
And I believe it. It's a good looking gun.
Now, do you have one of those really rare ones that accidentally fires from the factory 22 shorts?
Oh, you're kidding me.
They had some of these that actually were intended for 22 shorts. They were their gallery guns.
I would imagine that the collectors have snatched those up rather quickly.
I would imagine so. Those ones are worth about $850.
And I wonder at the time you could probably buy them brand new for $50.
Yeah.
When they first came out.
Now, okay,
That's a pretty good return on your investment.
the lever action nylon 76.
Okay, the lever action.
The lever action in Apache black, so black with chrome. Like I said, the only lever action Remington's ever made in modern day firearms,
Okay,
worth about $1,500.
for a $50 rifle. Isn't that something? Hard to believe they could manufacture them and get them on the market for that price that they had them at.
Well, it was back in that day when it was
It probably
everything
didn't take
was different.
Probably didn't take a whole lot of hand fitting though to make those either.
Well, that's the thing. With the plastic stocks, there was a two-piece stock pressed together, and molded together,
Right, right.
to cover up the
I
seams.
think they glued them together.
Well, that's what I'm saying. They were
Yeah.
glued together to cover up the seams. If you look at the seams of these rifles, where the seams should be on the top and bottom,
Right.
they did a couple little grooves, decorative grooves that really cover it up. You'd have no idea that this was a two-piece rifle. Now,
Well,
what
it's pretty interesting.
Here's the oddball one: the nylon Apache 77. It was sold at Kmart only. 5-shot mag, semi-auto, painted black metal, not blued. It was metal painted black
Yeah.
with a dark olive green stock.
Wow.
So this was, I imagine, is a great-looking rifle.
It probably is a sharp little rifle.
Only made from 1987 to 1989.
And they weren't in every Kmart. You must have had to special order those.
Probably.
Because, that was, the gun departments at Kmart and Montgomery Ward's and Sears, those were good places to buy guns. And in Williams, when you used to go to Williams back then, the gun department was rather small. Their big thing then was selling scopes and, of course they had the range.
They had
and
the
all
outfitting section, too, with all the clothing for years.
Yeah, but back then it was, they weren't big on selling the used guns.
Right.
They didn't have a lot of them.
Now, this rare nylon Apache 77 from Kmart.
Yes. I'd have to say kind of ultra rare.
Ultra rare. It's worth about $200.
You're kidding me.
All it's worth.
Well,
Because it was painted metal. It was just blued metal that was painted, so the metal would tend to rust.
it's a shame when they bring a product out and they cheapen it.
Basically, that's what it was. Just a cheaper variant. But look, it was at the end of its life cycle. At this point, the gun was already
just
almost
using
30 years old.
Using up the parts they had.
Yep.
Isn't that something? Well, that's interesting history, though. And it does still intrigue me. I'd still like to see the black one with the green stock. That's even though it is painted. And
You could Duracoat it.
oh, sure you could. If it still works good, that's the main thing.
Yeah.
And are there parts still available for these guns? I would assume so.
I would assume so.
I
Always look at these because on the bottom of the grip, the bottom of that hand grip,
yeah,
it's going to be the little logo and tell you what the model is.
yeah.
So it'll
That's
say
how you could see them back when I was a kid going to the hardware store looking at them. You could see the name on them,
Right.
and see what they were.
and it would say nylon 66, 77, 76, a 10, whatever it would
Yep,
say,
yep.
embossed in the bottom of that cap. And that fancy diamond on the stock?
Yes.
The nice diamond up on the side.
Yep.
That was actually there to serve a purpose, too. That actually covered up some strengthening bolts in the plastic.
Did it really?
Yep. And
And that was where it bolted the front together. Then they put
one of the
those caps
spots.
on.
Yeah.
Now-
Now, and one of the things you won't see very often with these are slings on the rifles
No, you didn't see them at all.
because too much front tension
Yeah, you could break the stock.
could break the stock. Your gun, it would actually bend the stock, so you wouldn't be able to accurately hit anything.
In that it used to be, only a couple times that I see these things in the woods. They were so light you just carried them anyway.
Right.
But it's not like you needed to shoulder drag squirrels out of the woods.
This fits in the same. The sights are almost the same as the Model 600s, also at the same time from Remington.
Yeah, nice short.
It was in that same idea of wait a second, let's do really cool looking rifles.
Well, it made sense to have a carbine sized rifle, and same length basically as a 30 carbine,
Yes.
but a 22 long rifle, still lightweight, and it works. So, hats off to them, man. They had a good thing going, and we talked about love hate. It's certainly a love hate for this gun. Now, one of our good regular listeners and a friend of the show, Mark Hartman, a gunsmith, talked about how it was years ahead of its time, and the worst thing you could do to it was spray WD-40 in it.
Right. We have a friend, Bill, in Flushing, who was in the Navy.
Yeah.
And he was stationed in Cuba, but before the problems in Cuba back in the early 60s. He bought his nylon in Cuba.
Really?
And he still has it to this day in the box.
Isn't that something? That is probably truly a collector's item.
I would think so. I might put a talking off his hands. But,
well, it's
but
certainly an interesting...
Bring up this gun, listeners, when you're around your friends and see just how many of them at the range this week. If you're out there shooting trap, say, hey, who's got a nylon rifle from Remington? And just see how many people say,
oh, yeah,
they have
I
one.
still got mine, you know?
Yeah.
Don't shoot it very often, but I still got
it. Black,
you know?
brown, green. Did they spray paint the whole thing silver?
I hope not.
You never know. You never know with this.
Not. But, you know, with the gun that doesn't cost much, it's always fun to customize it the way you want it, too.
And it shows...
But you didn't have to do much to this gun was the thing, because it was already pretty darn cool looking.
Right.
You know, it was certainly futuristic looking. Form and function seemed to be good. And with me, I've always had bad eyesight, so I always wanted to put a scope on it. And these things did come with a groove top receiver for a scope.
Yep.
And some of the models even came with scopes.
Some of them would. Yep. I think one of them came with a scope package.
Yeah. Yep. And very interesting guns, though. But it was one of those things that your
dad bought you a Glenfield instead.
Right. And I flat out wore that gun out. Still got it, but I wore it out.
If it had nylon, if it was built out of nylon, you probably wouldn't have wore out that bolt.
Might not have wore that bolt out, but as it is, what did your dad get you? You know, I mean, you know, Jake, what do you shoot? What's your favorite 22?
My Buckmark rifle.
That's your favorite 22 to shoot?
I think so. I would say so.
It's a nice gun.
Mm-hmm. Heavy
Shoots
barrel.
Good. Yep.
It's a tack driver and it's fun.
Yep.
It's a little heavy to carry through the woods, but that's what the 1022 is for.
You've had a lot of fun over the years with 1022s, of course, and you've had Henry Pump 22.
Yeah.
Which you didn't find as appealing as you thought you were gonna.
Yeah, it's a little different, a lot of different.
I think it was a gun that required a long break-in period.
I think so, with just the way how stiff the gun was at first, but it was brand new when we got it. So
not knocking Henrys at all. They're good guns.
No, good American made.
Yep, but it was a little stiffer than you wanted.
We've had so many different 22 rifles though, and tried them all. From the AR-7, which it's a great gun, but for what I was looking at, it wasn't what you really wanted. Right.
And you know, it kind of goes back to a gun's a lot of fun if it's inherently accurate.
Yes.
And some guns are just shooters. They're not really made for, being able to hit that dime at 50 feet. You know what I mean? And it's like shooting a Derringer. Yeah, it's impressive at 3 feet. But, getting beyond that and hitting accurately, it's hard to hit a body-sized target at 25 feet with a Derringer. The barrel length and everything, it's just not conducive to having an accurate shot. Is the wow factor there? Yeah, it's fun. But these 22s were, the one thing I always wondered about the Nylon 66s was the barreling. And how was the barrel? Was it a plastic shrouded barrel or was it a metal barrel?
Metal barrel. It was a metal barrel, and there's actually one of these, one of the rarest ones, which I didn't even bring up, actually was intended for 22s. It was one of the first year's production. 22 shorts, but it had a smoothbore barrel intended for gallery guns.
No kidding.
Only about 200 made.
Wow.
So I'm like you said, I'm
a
sure those are
22.
Those are either destroyed in Australia or England, or they're bought up by all the collectors. So
interesting. All right, well, hey, we got to go to commercial break again. This hour goes by so fast. The Gunsmith Show will be right back, so hang on tight. This is John Smith from I Can Build That. Every building has a roof, and peace of mind comes from having a good roof. That's why the I Can Build That team trusts DuraGuard Roofing for all their commercial roofing needs. So if your business needs a new roof, call DuraGuard Roofing at 691-9243. That's 691-9243. Free estimates, free inspections. That's DuraGuard Roofing. We trust them. You can too. DuraGuard Roofing, 810-691-9243. 9243.
If you want your home to feel sound when you are not around, call Pal Alarm. To protect your safekeepings and stop anyone from peeking, call Pal Alarm. When the house gets locked down so you can get out of town, call Pal Alarm. Give Pal Alarm a call today at 810-908-8298. That's 810-908-8298 or palalarm.com.
Attorney Timothy J. Cassidy is the pro-gun attorney that we here at the Gunsmith Show use.
With more than 20 years of experience as a prosecuting attorney, law professor, and holding a past seat on the Genesee County Gun Board,
Tim Cassidy is your pro-gun attorney.
contact Attorney Cassidy today at 810-569-5441 or email him at attorneycassidy@gmail.com.
And now back to the Gunsmith Show with John and Jake Smith.
If you'd like to talk to John or Jake, call now, 810-743-8255.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Last quarter of the Gunsmith Show, actually last 10 minutes, so we got a lot to talk about in this 10 minutes. Now,
And Dave,
yeah,
you're listening.
yes,
We have not found anything yet to fire that bullet.
okay. Kind of a private note to Dave.
I just got your email.
Okay.
If you have a lead on anything that would, let us know.
And we're still looking for other avenues for long range shooting. So we got some 308s that need to do some barking.
Well, this is a little bit bigger than a 308.
Yes, yes, slightly.
but slightly.
Now, Jake, you want to talk about
And about 600 grains more.
CPL holders again. The number, of course, is increasing here in Genesee County. CPLs, I talked about it in Chicago this past week, general conversation with the gentleman I talked to from Chicago, and we discussed concealed pistol licensing, and
They look at you like you're an alien.
every place you went to in Chicago had a sticker, with a handgun with the red line, with a line across it, no handguns.
Well, that works.
So I felt very uncomfortable, and blood pressure rose, a little bit of sweat on my brow. I was not happy. So anyways, but as of May 1st, 2015, Jacob, here in Genesee County, we had 23,962 CPL holders.
Yep.
Okay, concealed pistol license holders.
That was May 1st.
May 1st. You already got the numbers for July 1st?
Yeah, actually, I'm a little behind. July 1st numbers usually come out by about the 5th of the month.
So last week we could have talked about this, but we didn't.
We could have. I forgot about it.
Okay, what are the numbers?
24,231.
Wow. That's quite an increase.
So in 2
We had
months.
300 more people in 1 month,
Yeah, basically.
roughly.
Roughly.
That's pretty interesting. So now, the talk always comes up between open carry and concealed carry. And
And there's some new bills trying to get passed, and I'm not entirely
it's hard to stay up on all this stuff.
up
I
on
mean, we're
them
not
all,
lawyers.
But there is some new laws being passed in the state about if you have a CPL, you can't open carry. Just confusing the matter, unfortunately.
Right.
I believe that's what it's based around, is that if you have a CPL, you cannot open carry where you were allowed to open carry before. But if you're still if you open carry without a CPL, you have a little more freedom on it. And it just unfortunately confuses the matter more than it should be. And I almost think in ways it's just they're trying to find ways to pop the people that are trying to do the right thing.
Well, I know the NRA last night at like 11:30 did a big email blast that went out about some real backdoor tactics, like always, that they're trying to do to make it.
No.
Yes.
You mean shady dealings from the state?
No, not from this state. It was actually from South Carolina, and working on the emotions of the public again,
Oh.
and how really ridiculous the laws are that pop out in the emotions of a disaster.
Well, the Confederate flag's down. There should be no more crime.
Yeah,
Right?
no more hatred, no more crime, all racial.
Let's sandblast down Stone Mountain.
Can you believe that? I mean, if any of you have ever been to Stone Mountain, Georgia, and watched the beautiful laser show and saw the beautiful carving on the side of Stone Mountain, which is the world's largest chunk of exposed granite. I mean, here in the middle of the hills of Georgia is this giant boulder 5 miles around.
I think it was like a
I don't know what it is, but it's
Asteroid?
there. No, it's just beautiful.
Big old
And
piece
but
of
they did
space.
this huge carving on the side. It is actually larger than Mount Rushmore.
Really?
And, yes, it is, and it looks like a TV screen on the side. If you've ever seen the laser show, it is one of the most patriotic things you'll ever see. And yes, there are some Southern ballads being played during it, and there is a little Stars and Bars, and there is, it's General Lee and the Confederate Army on there, and it's just
If anything, they should hate the Northern flag because we're the ones that burnt down Atlanta, didn't we?
well, the point is it's just kind of crazy. The rush to judgment and the thought that anybody that has the Stars and Bars out is a bad person is utterly ridiculous. But when emotions is involved, and they can tie it to whenever there is a horrendous thing that happens, when they want to attach it to gun control, they do. Now, what about this week? What about the horrible loss of life in Chattanooga by another Muslim extremist? And it was truly ISIS-backed. It's easy to see. Call it what it is, and let's move on. And how do we move on? Rearm our stations of recruitment centers.
Well, it's what two states? It's Alabama and Louisiana. Both their governors yesterday signed acts allowing firearms to be carried in gun-free zones by military personnel.
Good. I'm happy for that. I don't believe in gun-free zones. I just flat out don't believe in them. It is nothing more than saying this is a pit for snakes. It's almost like walking through a minefield in a gun-free zone. It merely allows, it either makes you a felon by carrying,
right,
or makes the it just eases the minds of the bad people. Okay?
Exactly.
So very, very frustrating. And this news this week, and we're so sorry for the loss of life down in Chattanooga and those brave American soldiers that died for absolutely no reason. And for the news to not call it what it is very, very hurtful to me. I am American, and I'm as American as they come. I am a gun-toting American citizen. And I know that a lot of you listeners are in the same boat. You wanna support the Constitution. You want to defend freedoms. And I am so tired of all the political correctness in this country that it hurts. So sometimes you just want to get out there and scream. We have a lot going on this time of year. I want to tell you, we get a lot of people asking questions. Frequently asked questions is going to be one of our upcoming shows. Another one coming up for the next couple weeks. I think we're going to be talking about hunting handguns and how to get started into that. And which is
not hunting for handguns, but hunting handguns for hunting.
For hunting, okay. Now, which is
whether you're going to use that.
It's a different
10.5-inch Super Blackhawk.
It's a different skill set. I mean, you can use a 38 special with shot loads for squirrel and rabbit. There's all kinds of things you can do with it. You can.
We've seen. Remember that one hunter that was using a Dan Wesson 10mm to hunt elk in Texas.
Yeah, and he got them.
Talk about a thrill ride.
Well, yeah, and I think about it. The muzzle energy, the energy from a 10mm handgun, sometimes totally exceeds that of a muzzleloader. So the knockdown power, the punch, the hit, there's a lot to it. Even a 45 ACP
follow-up shot if needed.
Yes, it's there. So lots of cool things coming up. We got deer season coming up here in Michigan, which we always discuss what rifles we're going to take deer hunting, and we got a little bit of bad news yesterday from the DNR. Found out that there was another CWD, a chronic wasting disease deer reported. Same area, I think it was Ionia County.
I think so.
And Calhoun. Ingham County. Thank you.
Which is Lansing.
Yeah, it's right here in Lansing,
okay.
very close to us. Sad to hear they've already and they kind of calmly say that they've tested 340 animals. Well, that means they've killed them,
right.
And they've killed 340 animals and they found one more with it. Who knows how many thousands they'll kill before they find more.
But did you also see, on a better note, federal judge upheld that wolf seasons can continue?
And that's something that infuriates me. Wolf populations, in my eyes, should not be allowed to be around. We got rid of the predators in this country for a reason. That would be like saying, okay, we'll let Mexican drug lords run free in this country. And we're letting wolves run free. Okay? They kill people. They eat animals like mad. They'll totally devastate a herd of elk or devastate a herd of deer. They kill everything and eat everything.
It would change if something were to happen to a person.
And it does happen, but they hush it.
Right.
We had a DNR officer treed.
Yeah.
Because he was surrounded by wolves. And he had to wait for them to leave before, do you want to do that? Do you want to send your kids up to the UP on a camping expedition and have wolves attack them? I don't think so.
Oh, geez, we got to go.
Yeah, it's time to get out of here. We'll get off our high horse. Everybody, we'll see you next week right here, same time, same place on the Gunsmith Show.
I'm Jake.
I'm John. Have a great week. Shoot straight. We'll talk to you next week.